For those who don't know, Skechers is a shoe company that specialized in street or grunge shoes made in California. And if you grew up in the 90s, you would know that Skechers were the S. That was actually their slogan for a time. They've been around since 1992 and are the third biggest shoe company in the world. But did you know that Skechers had a cartoon? Let's talk about it. You're probably wondering how you'd even make a cartoon all about Skechers. Well, you don't make it about the shoes, you make it about its characters. This cartoon is known as Zevo-3 and was released on October 11th of 2010, and the show was about the mascots of the Skechers brand. The characters were actually originally designed by commercial designer John Massey, who made a lot of original characters based off the sneakers by Skechers, though the show was more specifically on 3 of their biggest characters at the time. Those characters included Cool Breeze, the mascot of Skechers at the time, a character who was made to advertise Skechers Air Raiders, highlighting the shoe's built-in foot cooling pump, Elastica, the female member group advertising the elastic bands in Skechers, and lastly Z-Strap, who I say now as an adult sounds very inappropriate of a name, was made to highlight the shoe's elastic straps, which allows kids to fasten their shoes without the use of, shoelaces. There are also other characters Massey made for the Skechers company, including Twinkle Toes, Bella Ballerina, Luminators, Pretty Tall, Sporty Shorty, Punky Rose, Heidi Hightop, and Caligula. But they're not in the show, so I'm not going to bother talking about them. The story of the show actually involves around 3 kids: Jason James, who is Z-Strap, Matt, who's Cool Breeze, and Ellie Martin, who is Elastica. Matt and Ellie are actually brother and sister, while Jason is actually a friend of theirs, who happens to live on a boat, taking place in a town known as New Eden City. There used to be an old Eden City, but it was destroyed thanks to a chemical known as Zevo. Thanks to the Zevo compound, it actually gave our main characters their superpowers after reacting to certain types of material. Made possible by one of our antagonists of the series, the evil Dr. Stankfoot, who was actually a villain in the advertisements of the show. So our 3 heroes fight off the many different mutants against our main antagonists of the series, the previously mentioned Stankfoot, and a politician/mayor, Brett Ronson III, who also happens to be a mutant. There's also a third antagonist, but I'll get to her later. Though Cool Breeze was sort of like the main mascot of the series, Z-Strap was the official leader of the group. Interestingly enough, Dr. Stankfoot was voiced by Mark Hamill. He does his best to be an entertaining villain, but in all honesty, Dr. Stankfoot isn't a memorable villain compared to Mark Hamill's previous performances, like the Joker or the Skeleton King from one of my favorite shows. The show was made with the character's creator, John Massey, along with the animation company Moonscoop, the company behind Code Lyoko, and was made possible thanks to the creation of Skechers Entertainment. The show lasted 27 episodes until June 9th of 2011, though the official finale aired on May 7th. After watching the show myself, there's only one word to describe this show: inconsistent. Most of the time when I was watching the show, it was nothing more than just the episode revolving from point A to point B like a PowerPoint presentation, without any real substance or character development whatsoever. I'm not joking, when I first watched the series, I could not for the life of me remember anyone's names when watching the show, until I looked more into the development of the series. Not to mention, Zevo-3 has very inconsistent writing. The first episode literally starts with a recap of how our main characters obtain their superpowers, while the next episode had one of them having a hard time controlling their powers even though the person was using them just fine back in episode 1. I get they wanted to make the show have episodic moments, but there are some episodes with extremely important plot points, such as with our third antagonist of the series, Dark Materia, who was made in episode 2 and hates the main antagonist, Dr. Stankfoot, and gets into fights with him. But how episodes are written, you would be confused to think if she were a henchman of Dr. Stankfoot or a random villain of the week character. Even the final episode is very inconsistent, with all 3 of our main antagonists meeting up, and instead of a final boss team-up of good versus evil, the main antagonists end up destroying one another, while the Zevo-3 have so little involvement in the final episode. What a great way to end Zevo-3 by not really involving them in the plot whatsoever. So what happened to Zevo-3, you're probably asking? The show wasn't doing well ratings-wise for a good amount of reasons. One was, since this was a cartoon based off mascots for a shoe company, parents thought they were trying to sell children on their shoe brands, even though most cartoons back in the 80s were nothing more than 20-minute commercials. The show's writing isn't the best, with no real investment or actual character development, and the icing on the cake, it only aired on the Nicktoons network as one of their main shows on the channel, so most kids couldn't even watch it if they couldn't afford it. Hence why the show was lost to obscurity. John Massey did make other types of animated movies based off the Skechers brand, including ones called Heidi and the High Tops and the Twinkle Toes movie. He also made his own original cartoon known as Schmitty, McFunkle, and Stump. And
we bought these ridiculous shirts. There is no way we're not getting in to mac on these slutty-looking chicks.
Yeah, it wasn't good either. Unfortunately, due to the poor performance of the TV shows, Skechers Entertainment was closed. Though the creator, John Massey, actually did make his own YouTube channel known as Muffalo Potato, where he teaches young kids how to draw, even getting special shows on the Royal Caribbean of all things. Zevo-3, in my opinion, isn't what I call a good Nicktoons show. Not even a fondly remembered show. But the fact that a shoe company of all things decided they wanted to make an animated series about their mascot characters, you gotta admit, that is pretty interesting. That's all for now on this obscure media. If you know any other obscure or lost media, make sure to leave it down in the comments below, and I might even talk about it in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications for more obscure media, or even other content I do, such as my Power Stone Clones video, or my video analysis on the importance of A Million Miles Away from the movie Belle. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.